Yes, what's happening, guys, man? Good evening. It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown, right here. And we are here for episode number 57 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast, man. You already know what time it is. I've got my guy here in the building getting ready. We already know it's going to be a great show. And Laurie in the house, man. Laurie from AFTV. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Very good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to the show. But one thing before we start, I must say how upset I am. Here we have the pound for pound face of boxing about to go up to cruiserweight and take on a massive challenge in Yuzo Makubu. And you've got some people out there criticizing him. They're saying, they've got the cheek to say, why doesn't he fight the best people at his own way? I mean, can you believe that? After all what Canelo's done for boxing. People want him to fight people in his weight class. I mean, do they not understand greatness? We've got a man that's going up and cherry picking his way through titles, and people don't appreciate it. I mean, you know what? They're haters. They're haters. That's what it is. They're haters, man. You know what I mean? Too much hate going on in the world. I mean, why should he fight people in his own division? You know, I mean, just go up a couple of weights and fight some guy that no one's never heard of, you know, who's been knocked out 6 years ago by Tony Bellew. You know, people don't appreciate that, Daryl. I find that strange.
We ain't even got into the show yet. And you're cooking. You're cooking. Look, Harvey said here, evening, guys. Hope you're both well. Conrad has said here, what a start already. Harvey has said here.
Some people are just disrespectful. I mean, who cares if he takes pens and he's got the judges in his pocket? He's the face of boxing. He does what he wants. When are people going to understand that?
Oh, man, guys, we're going to have a good one today, man. Like, you already know the cue. Hit the like button as soon as you come in. Drop some comments. Do you know what I mean? Let us know that you're here, so we'll give you a shout out. Big up to everybody, as usual, man. My favorite people up in here. Harvey, Conrad, DS. You know what I mean? Big up to all of you guys. And we're going to cook. We're going to cook. And Laurie can't wait to talk about the Canelo situation, but we got other things to talk about as well. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. Shall we start with Canelo? Shall we start? I wasn't going to.
I just can't understand the level of disrespect, Daryl. I mean, this man has single-handedly put boxing on his back. It's never been more popular.
All right, you know what?
We've got a drugs cheat as the face of boxing. I mean, it's never been more popular. And this man, he wants to bypass the best people in his division, go up, cherry pick a cruiserweight. I mean, don't people understand what this is? This is history right here.
All right, let's cook on it, man. Let's start with Canelo. You're right. Big up Francisco in the building, DS in the building, everyone here in the building, and that's about to join. Nothing but love, man. But let's cook on it since you can't wait to get on it. We'll talk about it now. I wasn't going to start on it, but you know what? I think we should cook on it, man. Canelo. It was announced this week at the WBC convention. Eddie Reynoso stood up in front of a packed audience, saying that Canelo has plans to move up to cruiserweight from super middleweight. And he wants to challenge the WBC champion in Ilunga Makabu. Now, this received like a few gasps from the audience. You might not believe that. But Canelo obviously last fought at super middleweight, 168 pounds. The cruiserweight limit is 200 pounds. And Canelo is looking to move up and fight Makabu next year. Laurie doesn't seem too impressed. I've already got a lot of these guys' reactions. DS, Harvey, I spoke to them during this week. So let me know I know your reaction, and you've made it clear what your reaction is. But talk to me, man. Why are you not like, I don't know, what's your thoughts? Let me give the floor to you.
You know what? I've got so many thoughts, man, but I just can't understand how gullible some people are. I mean, I'm gonna name drop him, man, because he's a mate of mine, and we had a big chat about this last night. Daryl, me and you were at a function last night. You came along and you graced the place with your presence at the AFTV party. This is not a promo because the event's already happened. Daryl came down and me and him were chatting. My boy Coogan was in the house. Coogan Cassius of IFL TV. And we spoke about it earlier in the night. But it just so happened that after the event ended, Daryl, I had to drop Coogan back to his car. Sorry, back to his hotel near the O2. So we got talking, and he was saying to me, Laurie, how could you not appreciate what this man's doing? He's jumping up weights to fight a champion. Surely you got to be impressed by that. And I'm like, Coogan, no, I'm not. Because I don't want to see that fight, bro. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to see that. I know Canelo is a great fighter. He can move up in weight ad nauseum and pick off guys that he knows he's going to beat. We know that he spars in the gym with Frank Sanchez and other heavyweights. And even Frank Sanchez has said that Canelo has done well against him. And he's a heavyweight. You know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you a little story now. I'm digressing slightly. When I boxed back in the day, right? And this is real talk. I'm not like bringing this up simply to illustrate my point. This is actual facts. So we used to do sparring every Friday at the gym I trained at. We'd routinely do sparring on Fridays. And there was a number of us that would glove up and spar. And at the time, I think I was doing like light middleweight, right? And you would spar guys that were lighter than you, and you would spar guys that were heavier than you. That's just the way it is. And I'll tell you now, Daryl, right? There were light heavyweights and heavyweights in that gym that I could box the ears off them, even though they were bigger than me. But having said that, there were welterweights and guys at my weight that I couldn't touch them. So when people say to me about, oh, he's giving up weight and this and that, yes, he is. Right? But let's not get it twisted, man. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, man, boxing is also about talent. What Canelo is doing, whether people want to call it for what it is or not, he's cherry picking. He's got a guy at his weight, David Benavidez. He's got Charlo. Incidentally, I think Canelo's capable of beating both those guys. But what I think is Canelo is maybe not as brave as some of his fans are. He doesn't want those challenges. He wants to go up and down in weight, pick off guys that he thinks are vulnerable, and then you're going to get other people who go, oh, look what he's done. He's creating. Are people really that gullible? And I've got to say, my old mate, Dan Raphael, there's a tweet out there yesterday that made, when I saw it, I just burst out laughing. I was like, right, this man, right, he was like having a pop at people, having a pop at Canelo for doing this. And he's saying, oh, don't you understand what this man's trying to do? He's trying to go up in weight and fight fighters. People should be applauding him, not putting him down, blah, blah, blah. And then I look further down. You know what he'd done that? He'd atted Canelo and Canelo's team in his tweet. And I thought, that tells you everything, innit? The man is seeking validation from Canelo and Eddie Reynoso, probably because he thinks I can get some good interviews down the line. And that just tells you everything that is wrong with this situation. Okay. I've got no doubts that he's going to beat Makabu, but that is not the issue. You've not proved yourself properly at super middleweight, because if I could just finish, Daryl, quickly. There's a school of thought, right? Quite a large school of thought, actually, that will say that the only reason why Canelo was very interested to secure all those belts at 168 was when Benavidez got stripped. All of a sudden, when Benavidez got stripped, here comes Canelo, I want to unify. Something that he'd not done it at light middle. He'd not done it at middle, right? But all of a sudden, you want to unify the super middle. Okay, fair enough. You've done that. Benavidez is out the way. Some people would say it's Benavidez' fault because he lost the fight on the scales and all the rest of it. You know what? I have some empathy with that argument, yeah? But guess what? Now, Benavidez is back and he's calling you out. He's clearly the best in the division, apart from Canelo. You could make an argument for Charlo, but I would say Benavidez is clearly the best challenger for him. A lot of people out there think that that would be a damn good fight. Most people still would have Canelo winning. I think I probably would have him as favourite as well, because let's face it, Benavidez not going to get no love on the cards. But anyway, so Benavidez has had a couple of fights since, and he's looked impressive. He had a fight the other week. He looked very impressive. Won the fight, calling out Canelo. Canelo himself has acknowledged that Benavidez is a so-called dangerous fighter. That's what he said, didn't he? He acknowledged that himself. Something that Canelo, to be fair, doesn't always do. He tends not to. He tends to ignore a lot of other fighters. So then we're thinking to ourselves, right, maybe Canelo, you know what I mean? He's thinking, yeah, he's going to, you know what I mean, clean out the division properly, you know, fight the best guys, then move up to 175. And then, of course, we hear this statement. He's going up another 2 or 3 weights to fight Makabu. And I thought, what do you know Makabu for, Daryl? What do you know him for? You know him because he's been in this country 5-6 years ago, knocked out cold by Tony Bellew. Now, is that what you want to see? Is that what you want to see, Daryl?
I got a question for you.
No. Is that what you want to see? Canelo.
I'm intrigued by it, to answer your question,
Okay.
because the weight factor is a thing for me. But let me ask you a question. Back in 2003, 2004, a certain Roy Jones Jr. moved up from light heavyweight to heavyweight, skipped cruiserweight, and he jumped up to heavyweight, took on the WBA heavyweight champion at the time, John Ruiz. Now, John Ruiz was not the most talented heavyweight out there. However, Roy Jones Jr. was aiming for history. He wanted to become heavyweight champion of the world. So when he did that, he moved up to heavyweight, defeated John Ruiz, looked spectacular doing it, and he was lauded by everybody. If he retired at that point, there was a big claim that Roy Jones could go down as one of the best of all time, for sure. So did you have the same energy for Roy Jones when he moved up to heavyweight to fight John Ruiz, when he could have fought a more dangerous heavyweight at the time? Did you have that same sort of energy like that you're having for Canelo right now?
No. And I'll tell you why. You know why? Because Roy Jones had cleaned out 168. You know who he
Yeah, but so has Canelo cleaned out 168.
No, but do you know who he beat? Do you know who he beat? He beat at that time James Toney. He was considered the other pound for pound. And they were both in the same weight.
At the time when Roy Jones jumped up from light heavyweight, there were still certain light heavyweights we didn't get to see him fight, like Dariusz Mikuchelski at the time. He jumped up to heavyweight to fight John Ruiz. John Ruiz weren't the best heavyweight.
Yeah, I know, because
so what's all the, with Canelo putting on another 30 odd pounds to fight Makabu, who may not be the best cruiserweight, but he's doing something like that as well.
No, what I'm saying though, I don't have a problem with him doing that. But what I'm saying is I want to see him fight the best fighters in his division first. Don't you think it's ironic that as soon as Benavidez is making noise again, he's going up north to fight at cruiserweight? We don't want to see that fight, bro. You know what I mean? What Roy Jones did was a history-making thing because it'd never been done before. Yeah. And he beat Ruiz. And I'll tell you something, because I was around at that time. There was a lot of people who, once they gave Roy Jones praise at that time, a lot of people almost immediately came back and said, yeah, come on, man. But that's John Ruiz. Lennox Lewis was the champion at that time. So no one was really taking it all that seriously. They just accepted it for what it was, which is that Roy Jones was the best in his division. Nobody could touch Roy Jones at 168 or 175 at them times, right? He made the leap, went up to heavyweight, but no one was really saying, oh, he's the heavyweight champion of the world. Because Lennox Lewis,
no one's going to say Canelo's the cruiserweight champion. They're not going to say that. He is going up there to pick a title. I'm not lying. Like Makabu, for his favor, he's the WBC champion. If you're the WBC champ in any division, you got a great chance of fighting Canelo, because we know about the situation with the W. They might as well be called We Be Canelo, like someone said earlier this week. However, yeah, I'm just pointing out the similarities there, where Roy Jones Jr. jumped up 2 weights to fight at heavyweight to pick up a world title. Canelo looking to do the same, moving up 2 weights to fight cruiserweight for a world title. I'm not saying it's exactly the same sort of achievement, because Makabu is not as accomplished as John Ruiz was, but still, I think
I'm not so sure about that, because John Ruiz wasn't accomplished. I saw John Ruiz fight, man.
Yeah, but he was more accomplished.
Me and you was I think we saw John Ruiz. I think I took you with you as a young boy. Where we went to
that show in New Jersey.
Yeah, that show in New Jersey, the Don King show. And John Ruiz, I think he fought Hasim Rahman on the undercard when B-Hop won the title. I think
he beat up William Joppy. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You was with me that day. I took you as a young boy, and we went over there. Remember how that fight stunk the joint out?
Yeah. But so like I'm saying, Roy got a lot of credit for that. He got a lot of credit for doing that.
Yeah, because at the time it was a history-making thing.
So with Canelo and Makabu, you're still, no matter what, you're just like, no.
No, well, listen, I was being a little facetious. I was, for sheer entertainment value. I was being a bit facetious. Of course, it's an achievement. But what I'm saying is, it's typical Canelo. Here he is faced with the challenge of Charlo and Benavidez. And rather than take on those guys, beat them, solidify yourself as the best outright. You're going up north to cruiserweight. You've even bypassed light heavy, guys like Bivol and Beterbiev, and gone straight to cruiserweight because you're thinking, oh, there's a vulnerable looking guy there that no one really knows about. He's not that good. He's been knocked out by Tony Bellew, you know what I mean? And I think I can take that belt quite comfortably. It's just like, who wants to see that, Daryl? Come on, outside of the real diehard Canelo fans and Dan Raphael. And I would imagine Gareth A. Davis and Eddie Hearn, they're all co-signing it as well. But really and truly, it's a joke.
Let's go to some comments here. We've got
It's a joke, mate. A joke.
We'll go to some comments here. DS has said here, even if it is a cherry pick, I can allow him one after 4 fights in 2021.
Yeah, so but one of those 4 fights was against Avdi Yildirim.
Pick up my man BFV in the chat. He agrees with you here, BFV. He says Canelo is a clown. And he says here, karma would be Makabu knocking Canelo the F out.
Absolutely. But then you're not allowed to express those views because you get called a hater. I had Coogan calling me a hater yesterday. I'm saying, Coogan, why am I hating? I'm just presenting the other side of the argument. You're there capping and lauding this man with praise. Oh, look, he's gone up to cruiserweight. That is fucking... I'm like, why? You know what I mean? We know Canelo's a great fighter. We know that there's going to be guys that are heavier than him that he could probably beat. Like I said, he spars in the gym regularly with Frank Sanchez. And Frank Sanchez has gone on record as saying that him and Canelo have some very good spars. So if he can hang with Frank Sanchez, I'm sure he can hang with Makubu.
All right, let me carry on. We've got a lot more in here. Harvey said here, Canelo is chasing legacy. Winning the cruiserweight title helps that. I totally agree with you, Harvey. I agree with you, Harvey. It does.
Are you really agreeing or are you capping or what? What are you really agreeing with that? What? Hang on, let me ask you a question right there. Do you think that Canelo's legacy is enhanced by beating Makabu for that belt when there's other guys in that division that are far more deserving of that fight? In fact, there are other fighters more deserving in his own weight class, at 168.
If Canelo wins that belt at cruiserweight, he becomes a 5-weight world champion. He becomes a 5-weight world. You have to say it. He does. So that does enhance his legacy. It does. He moves from a 4-weight to a 5-weight. A title holder, I should say. Maybe not a title holder, because when you're champion, to me, that's when you're legitimately number one.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Daryl, but you were the same when I used to hear criticizing Adrian Broner when he used to say, what was it?
Not really.
Different weight classes, and I've done it quicker than everybody else.
Not really.
When Adrian Broner jumped up to welterweight to fight Paulie Malignaggi in a fight that he barely won, by the way. A lot of people were saying, oh, come on, Broner, you know what I mean? Like, you just cherry-pick Paulie because you know he can't punch. I didn't see you saying, yeah, but he's enhanced his legacy. I didn't see you say that.
Yeah, but Broner ain't achieved anything like Canelo.
Daryl,
Broner hasn't achieved anything like Canelo.
Listen, that is not the point I'm making. You just said about enhancing your legacy by adding another belt to your collection.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that means he's adding to what he's already achieved.
What I'm saying is when Adrian Broner did it, I remember the conversations we had, and you were like dismissing it.
Yeah, but Broner hasn't achieved what Canelo's achieved.
No, but he did what you're just.
No, but he hasn't fought. He hasn't fought and beat.
He was a lightweight.
Yeah, but part of your legacy is who you fought and beat. Broner hasn't fought.
So what, you're really rating Makubu all of a sudden, are you? It's the same thing. He's done the same thing. It's the same thing. He's doing the same thing what Broner did. Broner, hang on, no, come on, let's keep it 100. Broner cherry-picked Paulie. He's a lightweight. He went up 2 weights to fight Paulie because he knows that Paulie couldn't crack an egg at welterweight. And even then, he barely beat him. A lot of people thought that Paulie's done enough to hold on to his belt, if not get the decision.
All right, hold on then.
I never heard you say anything, but he's enhanced his legacy.
What weight did Broner start off at?
Broner started off as a lightweight.
Yeah. So how many weight divisions has Canelo jumped? No, hold on. How many weight divisions has Canelo jumped up? What weight division did he start?
That's not the issue.
But it is though.
It is, and I'll explain why. Because you said a minute ago, when this show's finished, go back and look at what you said. You said Canelo's enhancing his legacy because he's going up in weight and acquiring another belt. You never used the word acquired, but that's what you meant. I'm saying to you, Other fighters have done the same thing, and we've not really given them the credit for it. So, and I used Adrian Broner as an example, because when he went from lightweight to welterweight and he fought poorly, even though he did what he did and it deserves some credit, we wasn't really excited. No one was going, "Oh, look at that fantastic win." We wasn't.
All right, let me say this, yeah, with Canelo. When I say enhancing legacy, I just mean that, yeah, it will add to his legacy what he's already achieved. So yeah, he's become a multi-weight world champion, but you've got to look at the guys who he's defeated along the way compared to
Rocky
Broner.
Fury.
Rocky Fielding. Then you could say Danny Jacobs. You could say Sergey Kovalev. You could say whoever, man. There's loads of guys out there. Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith.
Triple G. What about Charlo? What about Charlo? What about Benavidez?
Beat Triple G. Like, the list is endless, man.
Listen, in the past couple of days, I've heard people who have always been pro Canelo. Mike Tyson, very pro Canelo, had him on his show, larging him up, rare. He's come out and criticised him. Tim Bradley, who's always been bigging up Canelo, showering him with praise. Have you heard what these guys have been saying about it recently? You know what I mean? Come on now. You know what I mean? Not everyone's Dan Raphael, you know. You know what I mean? Some people see the wood from the trees. You know?
Big up my bro Ian Hamilton here. He's put just a little reminder. Makabu is promoted by the Don. What's his method? Come in with the champ, leave with the champ. Canelo is a free agent. I'm just saying, don't underestimate the Don. Francisco says here, I was really looking forward to a Canelo-less show because we have some good fights coming up, but Canelo and the WBC are ridiculous again. What's the word for motherfucker in the Congo?
I don't know, but we can find out because we've got some Congolese friends. I'll have to ask them. But listen, excuse me while I'm not excited about that fight, man. You know what I mean? I am not excited about that in the slightest. I don't know why he's getting showered with all this praise. What people should be doing is saying, listen, why are you going up to fight cruiserweights when you've got guys in your division that are worthy challengers?
I will say, Laurie, yeah, what I will say, and big up that Conrad's not waiting to fight either. What I will say this is, yeah, it's like, I'm not saying Makabu is just, he's the most dangerous fight out there for him at cruiserweight. I'm not saying like, wow, I'm just saying it's more the weight for me. It's more putting on 30 pounds at 31 years old as a 5'7", 5'8" fighter, going up against a man who is not the most talented cruiserweight, but he can dig. I think it's more him pushing his body to the limit rather than, it's Makabu sort of thing.
Well, there are ways he could get around that, but we're not going to go into that right now. We're not going to go into that. But I think you know as well as I do that there are ways that you can go up and down in weight and retain your strength and your speed and your stamina. And, you know, but it wouldn't be remiss of him, would it? So, listen. I'm not going to lie, bro. Like, you know what I mean? When I heard that fight, I was laughing. I was thinking, wow, I can't believe this. And I can't believe that so many people are getting excited about this. Like it's some great achievement. I'm like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Because I've boxed, you've boxed. You know damn well, Daryl, that when you was in that gym that you trained at, there were guys that were heavier than you. If you sparred them, you would get the better of them. That's just how it is. Like I said,
but sparring and fighting is not the same.
No, but it's the same principle, Daryl. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I know you have weight classes for a reason, but you know as well as I do, man, that there are guys in your gym, even though you're lighter than them, you're just better than them. That's just the way the world works. It's as simple as that. You have weight classes in boxing to protect fighters, and that's perfectly understandable. But it does not mean that just because a guy's 7 pounds heavier than you, or 14 pounds, or even look at the heavyweights. I think when Deontay Wilder fought Fury, they said he was 2 stone lighter than Fury. So just because a man is heavier than you doesn't mean to say he's going to beat you. You know what I mean? A lot of it comes down to talent.
Let me go through these. IA has said here, it's like Roy Jones. We all say, I literally said that, IA. I said that earlier. You might have come to the show late, but big up yourself anyway. Conrad has said here, I don't remember Roy Jones for that heavyweight title. Yeah, that was back in 2003, 2004.
Yeah, he never
BFE
even, as far as I know, sorry to interrupt, he didn't even defend it, did he? He just won
Nah,
it.
he dropped back down. He dropped back down to fight
Yeah.
Tarver, and that's when he looked bad, and that was because of the weight. But anyway, BFE has said here, TBL, you're kind of contradicting. Where am I? I don't know. Where am I contradicting myself?
Well, I just gave you an example of you contradicting yourself.
I just told you. I said, look, I said.
No, you didn't, because when
No,
Broner
you didn't let me finish.
dismissed it. When
You didn't
Broner
let me finish.
Okay, go on.
I'm telling you, literally, what DS is saying here is what I've been trying to tell you. Roy Jones' legacy was enhanced. I'm not saying it was made. It was enhanced.
No, but I wasn't using the John
you're not. Let me finish. It was enhanced by defeating John Ruiz. I'm not saying it was made. It's the same for Canelo. That's what I'm trying to say. Right, I'm not saying that if Canelo beats Makabu, I'm not saying it. You're not letting me finish. You gotta let me finish, man.
Go on.
I'm not saying if Canelo beats Makabu that his legacy is made. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it becomes a 5-weight world title holder, which is a fact. Do you know what I mean? And it enhances what he's done already. Adrian Broner, yeah, he did move up in weight and became, I don't know how many weights world champion is, maybe a 3-weight world title holder or whatever. But that doesn't mean that his legacy is the same as Canelo, because he hasn't beaten the same guys as Canelo has. That's what I'm trying to say.
No. You said that.
So where's that contradicting myself? Where is that? Where is that contradicting myself?
Can you let me finish now? Yeah. You said, go listen, when this show's finished, go back and listen to what you said.
I know what I said.
You said that you said that Canelo's legacy will be enhanced because he's gone up in weight and won another belt. That is what you said. And I gave you the example, right? And I remember it well because me and you spoke about this. In fact, we both did it. So I'm not going to say it was just you because I was doing the same thing, right? When Adrian Broner went up to welterweight and beat Paulie, neither of us was that impressed. We both said, listen, he cherry-picked Paulie because Paulie can't punch. And he won the fight. And yes, he did win another belt. And yes, technically, on paper, it does enhance his legacy. But we weren't having that. And you know that, Daryl. So that's what I'm saying.
It's not the same. It's not the same, though. Like I said, Canelo started at what weight did Broner start off at? He started off as
doesn't matter. He did the same thing what Canelo's doing now. He's going up in weight, 2 weight classes, and fighting a champion. And he's going to be. I mean, let's be honest, man. Canelo is going to beat Makubu, 100%, 1,000,000%. He's going to beat Makubu and he's going to win that title. He'll probably stop him late. And even if Makubu does have the temerity to try and win the fight, he won't get it on the cards because it was written before the contract's even signed. You know what I mean? That's Canelo, like I say, payday, you get payday. You know what I mean? That's what he's doing. He's laying down his belt for Canelo. He's going to get a nice bag, but let's have it right, man. He's laying down for Canelo. Simple as that. So let's move on.
There's a lot of comments in here. Harvey has said here, Makabu is more legacy enhancing than Charlo. Come on,
why? Why is that? Because you've not proven that you can beat the best guys in your weight class, and then you're going up north to fight up guys.
Charlo's not even a super middleweight.
He is now.
So if Canelo beat Charlo, you'd say, oh, well, Charlo, he's not even a natural super middleweight.
But I'm saying I want to see him fight. Listen, after last week, people are saying David Benavidez, right, is a legitimate threat to Canelo. I've already said on the show, you know, so I'm being consistent, that if they fought, I would edge towards Canelo beating Benavidez. But I still want to see the fight because until we see the fight, we don't really know one way or the other, do we? Benavidez was a champion before he got stripped of his belt. Canelo decided he wants to unify the belt. He never showed that same energy before then. Anyway, he's done that now. In the meantime, Benavidez has got his career back on track. He's had a couple of good wins, and then he fought at the weekend, a weekend after Canelo, and a lot of people, myself included, was quite impressed with it, right? So people are talking about him now as a legitimate threat to Canelo at 168. Canelo even acknowledged, like I said, something that he doesn't readily do with fighters, and said, yes, he's a dangerous fighter. So I'm thinking that is the prelude to a super fight between him and Benavidez. And then 2 days later, Eddie Reynoso stands up and says, yeah, our next fight is Makubu at cruiserweight. Did you not feel a sense of deflation when he said that, though? Be honest. I
was very shocked and surprised.
No. Forget about shocked. I'm asking.
I weren't that deflated. I weren't deflated like that. I wasn't deflated like I wasn't. I wasn't. Not me.
Well,
Francisco,
I was. I was. You know what I mean?
Francisco says here, Daryl's point on Jones versus Ruiz is valid. Jones didn't deserve praise for that. It was similar to this gimmick from Canelo, but it's a minor critique because Jones didn't engage in many gimmicks. So he's got to say about that situation. Diaz has said here, Laurie, would you be more impressed if he was fighting Bradis?
Yeah, I would, but that's not the fight I want to see. I want to see him fight 168 guys. You know what I mean? Unless you're going to leave that division behind and then go up the next weight there.
I mean, he can still do it.
It looks funny though, don't you think?
He can still do it, I suppose. But it'd be dangerous to cut all that weight, wouldn't it? To jump up there, that wouldn't suggest that you'd go back down to 168 after that, would it? After jumping up to 200 pounds or 190 pounds.
Listen, man. At the end of the day, I know it's a subjective thing. Everyone's going to have their opinion on this, but I must admit, man, when I laughed when I heard about this. I laughed because I thought, here we go again. You know what I mean? Here we go again, man. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. Makubu. Oh my gosh. And people are actually, like,
there's a lot of people like that, man.
Canelo's career has been so strategically managed. It's unreal. I've got to give credit to Eddie Reynoso and them, man. You know what I mean? I've got to give them credit in a way because they pull it off and they get the praise for it.
Conrad Boxing has said here, Bradis and Akoli would destroy Canelo. One thing I do agree on, me and you spoke about it, and me and DS spoke about it as well. Actually, DS was the one that highlighted it to me, so shout out to him. Was you were right about the way what you said last week about boxers' attitudes towards Canelo is something different. There's nothing wrong with praising the guy. There's nothing wrong with, like, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. But what Akoli did, I was a bit disappointed. I'm not going to lie. Like, you got a guy coming up in your weight class and he's putting Canelo, love heart, love struck eyes. And, oh my God, man, Canelo, wow. I'm like, yo, man, this guy's coming in your division. He's coming in your house and he's taking a belt that you want. So that's like a guy coming in your house, taking a plate of your food, and you're being like, oh, wow, man, do you want anything else? So I was a bit disappointed with Akoli there. And you did point that out last week.
You know the other thing about that, Daryl, is that if he'd have called Canelo out, then I could have kind of understood. If he'd have said, right, why are you fighting Makubu? Fight me. I'll fight you. Let's do it in Britain. I would have been more impressed with that.
Yeah.
But no, he's there lavishing praise on Canelo, love arts. Oh, it's disgusting. Actually,
you're right about that. Yeah.
Lawrence Akoli a little bit and this goes back to what I was saying last week. And again, people are going to call me hater. They're going to say, oh, this and that. You're begrudging of his success. Some people are even suggesting I'm only doing it because he's Mexican and he's not black. And all. Listen, it's got nothing to do with that, bro. The fact is, this guy's taking a piss out of boxing and he's been enabled to do exactly that by the WBC and all the other sanctioning bodies, the promoters, and not least, the fighters are just as bad. You know what I mean? And here I was lauding Caleb Plant, saying, listen, this is the one guy that's coming in there looking to win. And what does he do? Round 9. Oh, how's it going, bro? Yeah. Let me touch you. Is that all right? How am I doing for 21-0? Not bad, huh? Do you really think that attitude is going to beat Canelo?
Nah, that was disappointing me as well. Diaz has said here, if Canelo beats Makabu, oh, Jesus, man. I could see this as well, actually. He said, if he beats Makabu, I could see him going up to Bridgerweight and fighting Rivas.
You want payday? You want payday?
IA said here, Charlo don't live the life. He only trains when he has a fight. He's regressing by the day.
True. I said that on this show last week. Listen, I am not saying that Charlo and Benavidez necessarily beat Canelo. I do think that Canelo did duck Charlo at 160 and 154. Absolutely did that. But I have to also say that in recent years, Charlo has not conducted himself the way a fighter does. Now, one thing you do have to give Canelo credit is you never see him in the nightclubs acting stupid or getting drunk and getting embroiled in little silly situations. You don't hear about him taking recreational drugs like you did with Benavidez. You never hear Canelo missing weight. So he is a consummate professional as far as those things are concerned. Some of his other stuff, activities with the peds and that, of course, you know what I think about that. We're not going to go there for now. But Charlo especially, man, I do think he's regressing because unlike you, Joe, I know we spoke about it last week. I think his last couple of performances have not been that great. You know what I mean? And I think he's probably there for the taking. But Benavidez, on the other hand, looks like he might be coming into something approaching his prime. He's still only about 24, 25 years old, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he seems to be the man, doesn't he? That's like actively calling out Canelo. He looks serious to me. When he says he wants that fight, I think I can beat Canelo. I am starting to actually think that he might believe that himself, you know what I mean? And he's clearly a legitimate threat to Canelo at 168. Canelo said that himself. So I want to see him fight the guys at his own weight division. I don't want to see him cherry picking guys that he thinks are a soft touch. And listen, one of your contributors said a very true thing. What an irony it would be if he does get sparked out by Makubu. What's that?
You'd like that, innit?
Huh?
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
Well, I wouldn't. Listen, I don't take no pleasure in seeing a man get sparked out like that. I just want to see Canelo, man, fight the best guys. You know what I mean? I'm much more impressed with what Terence Crawford's doing this weekend.
We need to cook on that.
Canelo doing a long time. I know we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we need to cook on that, sure. One more comment before we do.
Terence Crawford is taking a clear and present danger. A fight that you sit down and you think, boy, you know what, man, if he's not on his top form, he could lose. A lot of people are saying that. Are you really saying that about Canelo versus Callum Smith versus Billy Joe Saunders versus Caleb Plant versus Abner Yildirim? When was the last time Canelo was in a fight that you thought, wow, you know what, man, if he's not on top form, he could lose this? You'd have to probably go back to the Triple G fight, the first one. You know.
Conrad Boxing has said here, the next stop on the Canelo tour is 38-year-old Beterbiev. You heard it here first.
Yeah, because you know what I reckon? He was probably waiting to see what would happen with Beterbiev versus Marcus Brown if Beterbiev continues to show a bit of slippage. Because some people have said that in Beterbiev's last fight, he didn't look that great, even though he got the job done in the end. But he looked a bit sloppy, and some people may have said it could be down to his age. I don't know. Could have been Beterbiev didn't really respect who was in front of him and didn't really take it that seriously, as it were.
DS has said here, I've always said Benavidez is the one to beat Canelo. Hopefully we see that at 175, as I don't see Canelo going back to 168. It's going to be very hard for him to drop back down all that weight, man. We saw when Roy Jones moved up to heavyweight, when he fought John Ruiz, he was what, 200 odd pounds or whatever, 220 pounds maybe. Then he had to cut all that weight to get back to light heavyweight. Fought Antonio Tarver about half a year later, struggled badly in that first fight, and then in the second fight, he got knocked out cold. So can Canelo drop all the way back down to 168 after putting on all that weight? I think it might be 190 pounds now rather than 200 pounds. But yeah, it's still, do you know what I mean? That's the issue for me.
What excites you about this fight, though, Daryl? You said that you was excited about the fight. What excites you about the fight?
I'd say intrigue. Just how he's going to carry that, how he's going to look against a much physically bigger man that can dig. I'm not saying he's good, but he can dig.
Is he that much bigger, though?
Well, like I said, Canelo, his dimensions, he's like 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah, but Makubu's 6 foot. Caleb Plant was 6'1". So Caleb Plant is actually a taller guy than Makubu is.
Taller, but look how much thicker and wider Makubu would be.
Is he that much? Have you seen him? He's not that big.
He's got a threat of he's got a dig. He can punch, and he's a bigger man. Because Caleb Plant couldn't punch.
At what level can he punch?
Well, like I said, man, it's uncharted. It's uncharted territory. Like I said, that's the intrigue. It's uncharted territory. But
would you rather see him fight? Let's be honest. I'm going to ask you. I know that you're supposed to be asking me, but I'm intrigued to know what you think about this. If I gave you an option and said, Daryl, who would you rather Canelo fight? Makubu or Benavidez? What would you say?
Well, I didn't ask for Makubu. I
I
didn't
know,
ask.
I know I'm asking you a question, a hypothetical question.
Yeah,
Given
I
the
didn't
choice,
ask for. I think the Benavidez is a more attractive fight for sure.
right, okay.
I think that's a more attractive fight.
I think most people would say that. Maybe Dan Raphael might not, but most people would say that.
Yeah.
The likes of Dan Raphael, Doug Fisher, Steve Kim, Gareth A. Davis, and all the other enablers. I'm sure they'll try and hype this. Oh, history making. Oh, what? No one's ever done this before. But those of us who really know the sport really know what's going on. That's what I would say. You know what I mean?
Let's cook on a fight that we're both looking forward to this weekend, man. One that is a significant fight in the welterweight division, and it features my guy, probably my favorite active fighter in the sport today. Your number one pound for pound fighter in the sport today, in Terence Crawford, taking on Showtime Sean Porter. Really looking forward to this fight, man. I've been watching, and you guys in the chat, if you haven't watched it yet, make sure you tune in to the Blood, Sweat, and Tears documentary. I've been loving that between those two fighters, and I'm really looking forward to Terence Crawford and Sean Porter, man. Sean Porter, at this stage, I'd say he's definitely Terence Crawford's most significant fight at welterweight to date. I know Kell Brook defeated Sean Porter, but when Crawford fought Kell Brook is not on the level of a Sean Porter right now. So this fight here is more significant in terms of the threat that Sean Porter poses. He's been in there with everybody, and he's been very competitive in all of them. He might not have won all of them. He suffered a close decision loss to Errol Spence. He suffered a close decision loss to Keith Thurman and a close decision loss to Kell Brook back in 2014. But Sean Porter is top level. He's top 5, no doubt about it, at welterweight. He's defeated the likes of Danny Garcia. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. But he's defeated the likes of Danny Garcia. Do you know what I mean? He's defeated the likes of Udinas Ugas. He's a top fighter for me. And he is a horrible guy to fight. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what he brings, how he fights, you know, he brings the pressure. He can make it ugly in there. He's going to get in Terence Crawford's chest. And the way how he's talking, Sean Porter, is that he's coming to fight. He knows what he needs to do. So I'm really intrigued. Do you know what I mean? Terence Crawford is a dog. I love watching him. And like I said, for me, this is one of the more significant fights of the year. I think it's going to be a great fight, great matchup, entertaining fight. And we may see the best of Crawford. I think that the Sean Porter that shows up, which will be a very good Sean Porter, may bring out the best in Terence Crawford. And I could see Terence Crawford possibly stopping Sean Porter late because of it. Mm-hmm. Let me hear your thoughts, Laurie.
No, listen, I agree with a lot of what you said there.
Sorry, Lloyd. Sorry. You'll laugh at this one. Dan Raphael has already turned in his scorecard for Canelo versus Macabre. Yeah. That's hilarious. But yeah, sorry. Go on,
do you know, Daryl, that I'm digressing slightly. I won't be too long. In that last fight, right, that with Canelo and Plant, Dan Raphael scored at the point of the stoppage. He'd scored it 9 rounds to 1 for Canelo. Now, if that doesn't tell you what a dick rider Dan Raphael is, then I just don't know what to tell you. But anyway, to go back to this fight at the weekend, man. Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to this fight, man. Really looking forward to it. I must admit, like a lot of times in boxing, when a fight is first made and you have an idea of who you think is going to win, you say to yourself, he's going to win that easy, man. And then as the fight gets closer, you see the guys in camp, you hear the opinions of others, you study form, and you start to really take into account all these different factors. You sometimes I'm pretty sure you've been through this, you sometimes arrive at a place and you're thinking, you know what, this is actually a very close fight. Now, listen, I'm not changing my prediction because at the outset, I said that Terence Crawford would win. I had him by unanimous points decision. I said he may even run Sean Porter into some punches in the later rounds and stop him. So I'm still sticking with my prediction. But what I would say is that this is going to be a very competitive, very tough fight. I've been impressed with the way Sean Porter's approached this fight. He looks like he always trains hard, but he looks like this time him and his dad have really put the work in. They sound confident. They look good. I like their energy. And yes, I've made some disparaging comments about Sean Porter's lack of craft and how he just tends to steam in and that. But the way they're talking, they're saying that they've devised a game plan. Yeah, they've said these type of things before. But I'm sensing from them that they do understand that while they need to make the fight, and make it a very upfront and personal fight with Crawford. They also have to be a little bit smart as well. They've said that. Haven't always heard them approach fights in that way. So I'm really looking forward to the fight. I still think that Crawford will win, but I think he will have his work cut out. And like I said to you earlier, Daryl, this fight is way bigger and better than anything that Canelo's been involved in the last few years. And I'm just keeping it 100. So if Crawford does win, especially if he wins by stoppage, it would just cement him being pound for pound for me. No question.
What about Alexander Usyk?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've always had Alexander Usyk up there, and I'd have him above. Well, I already said I wouldn't have Canelo in my mind because he's convicted peg cheat, and I won't have. I refuse to have in my
What about Usyk? What about Usyk and Crawford?
Yeah, that would be close, but the body of work, because don't forget, they've both cleaned out a division and gone up in weight, but Crawford's been around a bit longer and done it over a more consistent length of time. So I'd still have Crawford as my number one, but definitely Usyk's knocking on that door.
Yeah.
But yeah, this fight, man, is going to be a really entertaining fight while it lasts. And I think when I say last, I mean, it is going to go rounds. I can't conceive of it being over early. And I think it's going to have ebb and flow. I really do. I think there are going to be times when Porter is winning rounds, maybe dominating in certain spells. And then there are going to be other times when I think Crawford is going to use his jab and his footwork and his boxing skills. And he's going to be outboxing Sean Porter. And I think that they're both going to get hit. They're both going to get maybe hurt. They're both going to experience discomfort in there. But I honestly believe that Crawford is the more rounded fighter. He's hitting harder since he's gone up in weight. He looks confident as well. So, yeah, I'm edging it towards Crawford, but not as big as I was before because I'm looking at Sean Porter and I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, I'm acknowledging that he really could be a threat in this fight.
So you don't think Conor Ben beats him?
I know I said that, but then to be fair, I know
you regressed on that. Yeah,
I did say 18 months from now. So
yeah. One thing I would say about this fight here is, like I said, Sean Porter gives everybody an uncomfortable night. There's no one that's had their way with Sean Porter. If Terence Crawford was to have his way with him, that's going to tell me a lot, man. I mean, Porter, the thing with Crawford is sometimes it takes him a couple of rounds to get started. He kind of likes to read the room. He likes to see what you've got. We saw that against Kell Brook. In those first couple of rounds, Kell Brook was actually doing okay. And then people were like, oh, Kell Brook's he's not doing too bad here. And then in the fourth round, that was it. Do you know what I mean? So could you see Porter building up a lead earlier on, maybe? Like stealing some of the early rounds where it could get to round 5, round 6, and you're thinking, Crawford might need to do something here.
I could see it be a well-contested fight. And depending on what type of you see, this is the thing about this fight as well, is that it's two different styles, isn't it? So you have the more traditional boxing of a Terence Crawford behind the jab, throwing the combinations and so forth. And then you got Sean Porter on your chest, volume punching, not taking a step back. You know what I mean? So a lot of it could be how you judge fights. You know what I mean? A bit like the Errol Spence one. A lot of people considered it was very close.
It was.
In fact, some people said, had it not have been for the knockdown, that fight could well have been a draw. So, you know, it's going to be competitive. And I would imagine that a lot of the rounds are going to be quite difficult to score, especially the early rounds, because I think that it may take Crawford a while to establish his dominance in this fight.
Yeah,
it could be that it's nip and tuck up to about 6, 7, 8 rounds, possibly when Crawford might have to get a second win, because we know what Porter's going to do. He's going to come out, if not all guns blazing, but he's going to be on Crawford from the start. He's going to be coming forward. So yeah, man, this is going to be a really good fight. I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait, man. In fact, there's 2 fights I'm looking forward to at the weekend. That one there, and then I've got my mate Dan Aziz. He's fighting for the British title against Hosea Burton at Wembley this weekend, which I'll be going to. So shout out to Dan Aziz. I know he's in training for the fight. I've been communicating with him, so big up to Dan. But yeah, so as soon as I've gone there and watched that one, I'll be rushing back to my car, driving home, and getting ready for Crawford Porter. Yeah, so a great weekend of boxing.
Packer fan has said here, Crawford has never had a close fight, but you can argue that Bradis beat Usyk. Go and rewatch that fight. No way should Usyk be higher pound for pound over Crawford. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Big up Packer fan for that comment there.
And the other thing I would say about Crawford as well, I meant to say this earlier in my assessment, is that people keep saying, oh, Sean Porter is stronger, more physical and so forth. But I remember people saying a similar thing. Okay, he's not quite in the same league as Porter, but remember when Terence Crawford took on, what's his name? Jeff Ford, the Australian guy. What's his name?
Jeff Horn.
Jeff Horn, yeah, not Ford, Jeff Horn. Yeah, so he was coming off the back of that Pacquiao win. And if you remember, when Jeff Horn fought Pacquiao, he was very physical in that fight. In fact, there were times in that fight when he was kind of ragdolling Pacquiao. And a lot of people were saying, yeah, he's going to do the same thing to Crawford, because at that time, Crawford had just come up from light welterweight to welterweight. And they were saying, Jeff Horn's physicality and his physical strength is an advantage, and he's going to rough Crawford up, and he's going to be in his face. Similar things to what they're saying now. And you saw on the night, man, that Terence Crawford handled him very, very well. In fact,
what about the Mean Machine? He had a bit of trouble there.
Yeah, he did. Slightly different style, because Mean Machine's a more traditional boxer. Strong as well, good punch. But you know what I'm saying, though? Jeff Horn was that physical presence that people were saying that was going to give Terence Crawford problems, because in the light of what he'd done against Pacquiao, when at times he was almost throwing Pacquiao around the ring. Remember a couple of times in that fight, Pacquiao was actually complaining to the ref. You know what I mean? And Crawford, who, by the way, I'm not sure if all of your viewers know this, he was also a very good wrestler as a kid.
Yeah.
A standout wrestler in college or school or whatever. So, you know what I mean? He's physically very strong. And I'm sure they will have tactics devised for when Porter comes bustling in.
IA has said here, no love for Demetrius Andrade. And yeah, because Andrade is also fighting this weekend. You forgot to mention him,
yeah.
Where's the love for Andrade, man?
Yeah, well, as someone once said, he's a horrible fighter. You're a horrible fighter. Yeah, horrible fighter, but you fought Avni Yildirim, who must be a lovely fighter, yeah?
Andrade and Jason Quigley, man. Do you give Jason Quigley any chance whatsoever? Could Andrade be overlooking him? Could he get caught slipping? Or is this just a ticking over fight until he gets a big one?
You know what? That's a good question, because we've seen this with Andrade before, where he's fought guys that you think, yeah, man, they won't really be that much of a threat. And he's not looked that good. So, yeah, it's not beyond the pale, but I still think that he'll have enough to win. I think Andrade is a very good fighter, very underrated. And I don't agree with Canelo Alvarez. He's not a horrible fighter. Go ask Liam Williams what he says about Andrade now. He had a newfound respect for Andrade after they fought. He was saying similar things to Canelo before he fought Andrade. After the fight, he was showing him a lot of respect, saying he hits harder than I thought. He's a better boxer than I thought. So Andrade is a good fighter, man. And he would have been a great test for Canelo at middleweight as well. But for some reason, Canelo didn't want to fight him. Called him a horrible fighter. Maybe, was it the style that he didn't like? Was it the movement that Andrade's got and the boxing ability that would have caused him fits in there? You know what I mean? You're calling Andrade a horrible fighter, but yet you're fighting Avni Yildirim. And you're asking the WBC to promote Avni Yildirim to your mandatory defense, even though he hadn't had a win in 2 years before he fought you and used to be sparring partner. So, come on.
Big up Packer fan here. Another good comment from him. Packer fan, we need you in the chat more. We need to come and have you join the podcast. So if you haven't subscribe to the channel. He said here, Andrade needs to win by stoppage on Saturday and then be at ringside in Japan in December for Triple G versus Murata. Crash the ring no matter what. He's got to do something, because I feel sorry for Andrade, man. Yeah, I think he should have had that shot. I don't know why. And I agree, he's not a horrible fighter at all. He's had a very distinguished amateur career. Very good as a professional. He's unbeaten. He's got charisma. I said it in my video this week. I don't know why Andrade, you've got to blame Eddie Hearn a bit for that as well. Like, it's all good having these ticking over fights against Jason Quigley. And I know that the Liam Williams fight meant something to us, but to the Americans, it didn't really mean anything. I think that Andrade should have got his shot. And he talks about Charlo a lot, Eddie Hearn. He's always saying, oh, Charlo didn't want it. but you've got Triple G in your stable. Why didn't you make that fight? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think he hasn't given Andrade the sort of credit his career should be given in terms of getting him the big fight. He's had him for a number of years now. And, yeah, I think that he hasn't done as well with him as he should have done.
I agree. But then if you're Andrade, was you really seriously thinking that you were going to get the Canelo fight when you got a promoter like Eddie Hearn, who's, you know what I mean, professed his self-avowed love for Canelo?
What about Triple
Even
G?
wearing his pajamas.
What about Triple G?
Well, yeah, I mean, he should really have got him in more high-profile fights. I'm curious to know as to why not. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I guess you'd have to ask Eddie Hearn that, man. So-called best promoter in the world. Why hasn't he been able to get Andre these fights?
Yeah. You can't just blame Charlo. You can't just say, oh, Charlo doesn't want it, man. Charlo's not the only... I think Charlo should have fought him. But there are other guys as well. Triple G, why didn't you push that one? Because you knew what sort of a threat Andrade was to Triple G. Triple G probably earned you more money. You don't want to put him in there, but you don't want to say that. But then you're going to go against other promoters that do that. So you're part of the problem as well for me.
I agree. Good point.
DS has said here, Usyk is the number one for me. Both of them cleaned out their divisions. He's talking about Usyk and Crawford. Although Crawford's recent resume is underwhelming and Usyk has a more significant win at heavyweight than Crawford has at 147. Yeah, I have to agree with DS there on that one.
It's I'm not going to argue too much. I mean, I would just say that Crawford has been around a bit longer as a professional, obviously undefeated, same as Usyk has. And, you know, I mean, there are some good fighters on that resume, man. I mean, remember when Crawford beat Victor Postol? At that time, Victor Postol was seen as one of the better fighters in the world. And then Crawford was the first one to take his unbeaten record. And I remember going into that fight, a lot of observers were saying that Crawford was going to lose.
Yeah.
And Postol, who was being trained by Freddie Roach, was actually predicting a knockout. I remember that well. And again, he went in there with Crawford. He hardly won a round. That was to show you how dominant Crawford was.
He was brilliant.
You know what I mean? And I have to say as well, I know people are going to interpret this as a dig, but these were not cherry-picked fights. You know what I mean? He went up in weight and he fought the best guys there at the time. Some people were saying, oh, the Ndongo fight, you know what I mean, he wasn't a really good fighter, but Ndongo had going into that a really good record. I think he'd gone to Russia and upset the favorite in that fight as well, hadn't he? Ndongo, before Crawford fought him. So you can only beat what's in front of you at the end of the day, unless you cherry pick them, of course.
Francisco says here, Eddie Hearn recently said that the issue is that Andrade is being ducked by everyone. Andrade's style would give Canelo some problems. Canelo would win, but it would be a good fight.
Yeah, but how hard did Eddie go all out to make that fight? Because Eddie Hearn, right, he's a self-avowed lover of Canelo. He said so himself. So it sounds to me that he wouldn't really go all out to push the boundaries to make that fight.
I'm more talking about Triple G than Canelo. Because
no, but I'm just saying that one of the reasons why Andre had no chance of getting the Canelo fight is that I don't think Eddie Hearn would push back the boundaries to get that fight made.
Yeah. Big up JM in here. And I totally agree with what you're saying here, JM. You're absolutely right. This is what I'm trying to say as well. Eddie Hearn could have made the Jacobs fight for Andrade, Sims Jr. and Andrade. He's been used and he's been dumped by Eddie for the Zone USA. Eddie Hearn is to blame for this. Why didn't he make the Jacobs fight? There were attractive fights out there. He's coming out saying, oh, I can't get Andrade a fight. Andrade, I can't. Look at these guys that you've got. You could have gave him Jacobs. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Sims Jr., you could have gave him these guys, but you didn't want to. So you're blaming other people for ducking Andrade, but you're not really, you're giving him the fights, you're keeping him active, you're paying him, which is good. But I don't know, man. How much were you really pushing Andrade for those fights as well? Listen, Andrade seems fine with it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, this is what I was going to say. I mean, if Andrade wasn't happy with it, then surely you should have left Eddie by now, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
So is he guilty of some of that himself?
Yeah.
How much has he really been pushing for these big fights? I know he did try and push for the Canelo fight. I'll give him credit for that. He even turned up at the press conference and called Canelo out and then get called a motherfucker, would you believe? The word that's supposed to be such sacrilege in Mexico, according to Canelo. But yeah, he turned up at that fight. He called him out. I've also heard Andre call the Charlos out at various times. He's not been able to get those fights. So you got to ask yourself why, man. I don't think Eddie has served him very well. I've got to say that.
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn's a very good promoter, obviously, but he's not had that same energy for Andre, has he? I don't know why, but maybe only Eddie can tell you that.
Yeah. Either way, man, predictions for the fights this weekend between Andrade and Quigley and Crawford and Porter before we move on.
Quigley and Andrade, listen, man, I'm sure Quigley will give it his best effort. But I've got to say, man, that this sport is about levels. And I think that Andrade is 1 or 2 levels above Quigley. No disrespect to him. I expect Andrade to see him off by a unanimous decision or maybe even a late stoppage if Andrade really goes for it. Sometimes Andrade can coast a little bit in his fights. Mm-hmm. Hopefully Quigley will give him a good fight and push him similar to what Liam Williams did and make him work. But then again, if he does push Andrade like that, it could end up being a shorter night for him. But I'm definitely picking Andrade to win. He's definitely the better fighter. But Quigley, I'm sure, will give it his best.
I'm going for Andrade on points in that one. And I'm going for Crawford, a late stoppage over Sean Porter. I think he's going to be the first guy to do it. He stopped everybody at welterweight so far. He's looking, he's 33, 34 years old, but he's still looking unbelievable to me. It's a shame we're not getting to see more of Terence Crawford. Because like I said, he's my favorite fighter right now, today. Active fighter, Terence Crawford is. I love watching him. I love his mindset. I think Porter will give him some trouble earlier on, maybe get off to a good start. Maybe even after 3-4 rounds, it might be like, okay, Sean Porter's making this a bit rough for Crawford. But I think that eventually he will walk onto something because he has slowed down a little bit since that Keith Thurman fight, since that Danny Garcia fight, since those fights. He has been a bit more hittable and a little bit more vulnerable. We saw that against Ugas, and I think against Crawford, yeah, it could be a late one for me. And these guys agree.
I agree. Listen, I thought he lost to Ugas, and I thought he lost clearly as well. I didn't even think it was that close, that fight, to be honest. I've watched that fight a couple of times, and he definitely lost it for me. Okay, he got the decision, but we all know that was boxing politics. He fought very well against Errol Spence, but I actually believe that Terence Crawford is a superior fighter to Errol Spence. And like you, I see Crawford dominating after, say, about 6-7 rounds when it will be nip and tuck. I think once the fight settles down a bit, the early energy is out of Porter, then I think Crawford will start to take over. And I'm going for either a wide unanimous points decision, talking like 117, 113, or maybe even 118, 112. But definitely Crawford winning on points. Or I do agree with you that there could be a stoppage because as Porter does expend all this energy in the early rounds, he might leave himself tired and a bit open. And Crawford, one thing that people should always look at when Crawford fights, he's very accurate with his punching. He doesn't waste punches the way that Porter does. Porter will go in and he'll windmill and he'll throw a lot of shots. They're not always landing, and if they do land, they don't land clean. Whereas if you look at Crawford, he's more surgical, man. He really does break guys down. And he's hitting a lot harder now at welterweight than he has done previously. Because remember, when he was at light welter, he was kind of struggling to make the weight. Now he's grown into welterweight. He's a 33, 4-year-old man. He's properly, fully into the weight, and he's showing strength. And I think that will tell. So,
Harvey says here Crawford. Harvey says here Crawford stops him in round 10 or 11. I'm on your page, Harvey. That's what I think. DS has said here Crawford round 7. I think round 7. So yeah, you never know, man. You never know. I'm looking. I mean,
some people said that Crawford's his chin is a bit suspect, and they cite in the Green Machine, but then Green Machine was a
Mean Machine.
Sorry, Mean Machine.
The Mean Machine.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah. So Mean Machine is known as having a very good right hand. So yeah,
Let's
And
be real, man. He decked Crawford,
knockdown
didn't he?
was called so at the time. It was a flash knockdown anyway.
He did deck him, though. He did
deck
Crawford.
him, flash knockdown. But listen, what happened when Crawford got up? A lot of fighters over the years have gone down when they've been hit by good shots. But then they get up and then all of a sudden it's a different fight. So, and like I said, Crawford stopped everyone so far at welterweight, which is very impressive.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly, because we're an hour in, and I want to get your thoughts on the Dillian Whyte fight. Well, not the Dillian Whyte fight. Sorry. The Dillian Whyte situation with the WBC, where it was expected this Tuesday that it would be announced that Tyson Fury would be ordered to defend his belt against Dillian Whyte. However, I saw the WBC, they came out and they said that no ruling will be made on the fight as of now until the arbitration that Dillian Whyte is holding against them is over. So effectively, Dillian Whyte has kind of shot, according to the WBC, Dillian Whyte has shot himself in the foot by holding this arbitration against him, as it is now affecting him from getting that title shot from being ordered. So a lot of reaction to it. There was a lot of people talking. I saw a lot of people not showing a lot of sympathy for Dillian Whyte. I did a video about it earlier on this week on the channel. And listen, man, what I've got to say about it is the WBC are funny. Do you know what I mean? They led all of us on to believe that this might happen. Do you know what I mean? There were leaks in the media. There was Suleiman coming out and saying, oh, well, he's shown us the medical report to prove that he's got a shoulder injury. He reminded me of like Boris Johnson. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to go off topic. Yeah, where he says, oh, there's nothing in the data to suggest we're going to have a lockdown. And then there's a lockdown. With Mauricio Suleiman, he basically said, yeah, we got the records from Dillian Whyte. He definitely does have an injury. There's nothing to suggest he won't get a title shot and all that. So at the convention now, I'm expecting them to say, okay, well, Dillian Whyte, yeah, you'll get that title shot. We'll order the fight. However, as we know, he came out and said what he said. What I think is funny, though, is that the WBC, they were letting him pay the sanctioning fees for their fights while this was going on. They're allowing Dillian Whyte to keep hold of the interim belt and pay them to fight for their belt and defend it. But when it comes to the fight being ordered now, they're saying, oh, no, you've got this going on. So, yeah, we can't sanction that. So, you know, what's your thoughts, Laurie?
No, I mean, you've summed it up perfectly there. Listen, the WBC, we be corrupt is what I call them. You know what I mean? And I've just got no faith in that organization whatsoever. They exist for the sole purposes of Canelo, you know what I mean? And people like that. So I'm not surprised that they're not showing Dillian any love, man, because they're probably going to try and extort him for more money through this. So I wish Dillian luck with that, man. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, Tyson Fury is talking that he may fight Usyk next. You know what I mean? So the waters are getting further muddied every day, it would appear. And I knew Tyson Fury might do this type of thing. There was 1 week he was flirting with retirement. His dad has actually come out and issued a statement saying he's got nothing else to prove, he should retire. Then it went a bit quiet. We thought we were going to get Dillian versus Tyson Fury. And now I understand in the last week, Tyson Fury has come out and expressed an interest in fighting Usyk. So in between,
yeah. But
in between, by the way, saying that he wants to train Anthony Joshua. So I don't know where we stand with that fight at the moment.
Well, one thing I will say is this, yeah. On Twitter, after the ruling was made, or not made, from the WBC, there was a lot of people that didn't have a lot of sympathy for Dillian Whyte. They were saying that, you know, Dillian Whyte, he kind of shot himself in the foot with this sort of thing, whatever. And then they said that Dillian Whyte has had opportunities to fight for the title before. You've only got to look at the potential AJ rematch that was being discussed. It was Dillian Whyte that turned that down.
Yeah,
there was also the chance of Dillian Whyte fighting Kubrat Pulev to become the #1 challenger at IBF. Dillian Whyte didn't take that up. So they're saying, you know, why should we have sympathy for Dillian Whyte? It's not like he's not being owed a title shot. Like, it's not like he hasn't been given the opportunity to fight for one. But
I think that's a bit unfair on Dillian, to be honest. And I'll tell you why. Because Dillian said that he was injured when he was offered that title shot. We have to take him at his word. If you recall, when Dillian fought Anthony Joshua in that fight they had a few years back, great fight. it's common knowledge now. It's not just rumor or speculation. It's common knowledge that Dillian actually went into that fight injured. So you can understand that a few years later, he's offered a title shot and he's injured. He's probably not going to take it and go through that same thing again, is he? He's probably going to want to be healthy. Then what he's done is he's fought several fighters in and around the top 10. He's beaten them all. He even lost one of those and he came back and knocked out the guy, talking Povetkin now. So he's earned his shot. So I don't see why the WBC, now he's there or thereabouts, that they come around with all these different variations of the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, just give the guy's title shot, man. You know what I mean? That's a good fight. Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury is as good a fight out there as there is, really, isn't it? Let's be honest. Right now. Now that Tyson Fury has disposed of Deontay Wilder, as far as that competition is concerned. You look around the landscape, of course, you can throw Usyk in there.
He's fighting AJ, so
yeah. So that is as good a fight as any. Get the fight made. You know what I mean? We want to see it. Pretty sure everybody in Britain would love to see that fight, and a lot of people in America too. So get the fight on, man. Stop mucking around.
Yeah. Steve Harrison says here it wasn't an injury. He didn't fight AJ over money.
Well, I might beg to differ on that one because there was a lot of rumors going around at the time that he was injured. I mean, if you've seen any interviews with Derek Chisora in the lead up to the Chisora Dillian Whyte fight, Chisora actually said on the record that it was common knowledge at that time that Dillian was carrying an injury into the AJ fight. And if you know about Chisora,
no, we're talking about the rematch. As to why the rematch.
Oh, the rematch. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but he said he was injured, so that's what I heard. I don't know.
Ian Hamilton said here the whole thing with the WBC and Whyte is petty and worse than the whole Canelo thing. It's like the WBC are just really determined not to give him his shot for some strange reason.
Yeah, it seems like he must have upset him with something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe they've got other plans for that belt. That's what I'm saying about with the WBC. We be corrupt. They're going to do their own thing. There's no such rules as rules and regulations as far as that body's concerned. They're going to do what suits them. They've shown it time and time and again. They're a very disreputable bunch. I think everybody would agree with that.
I said it on my video this week, talking about this. And part of me, I asked the question, but then I kind of answered it myself. So I don't know what you think about it. But like, why would you be so in pursuit of a title when they're showing you this much disrespect? Is it because the WBC are looked at as the most prestigious organization? Like, why would, if they're treating you like this, there are other belts you could go for. Like, why do you think Dillian Whyte is really going for this one? Is it because of the prestige? Is it because he knows it?
That could be it.
Because they're just disrespecting you at this point.
Yeah. No, but the other belts are, to be fair, the other belts are tied up, aren't they? With AJ and Usyk.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. But yeah, the WBC, despite the way they run that organization, is recognized as one of the more prestigious belts in boxing. But it's also a school of thought to say that it's not so much the belt, but the champion who makes the belt, if you see what I mean, rather than the other way around. So,
yeah.
But listen, man, Dillian, I think everyone would agree, even if you don't like Dillian, most people would agree that he deserves his shot. So I don't know why there's all this hanging around and procrastination. Give the man his shot. Let him earn his chance in the ring, and let's see if he can do it. Because he seems to think he's got a great chance against Fury. From what I understand, they had some great sparring sessions. You hear stories about who got the better. You're hearing stories that Dillian knocked him down a couple of times, and Tyson, the style that Dillian had, he never quite fancied it with him. Then if you listen to the Gypsy King, he'll tell you a totally different story. But I think we can assume from what both sides are saying is that it was very competitive. So why not let it play out in the ring? Like I said, name me a better opponent for it outside of Usyk and people like that.
Well, Harvey is saying here, if we can't get the Whyte fight, then Fury versus Joe Joyce should be next. Who else would Fury fight?
For that. But I don't
He's
think
a top 10 contender, and they're both under BT, and it's a good homecoming fight for Tyson.
Yeah.
Joe Joyce. Yeah. I mean, what I did find funny, was that after the whole issue with the WBC, I found it very convenient, and Harvey pointed this out as well on Twitter. Tyson Fury putting out a tweet, perfectly timed, with the WBC belt. He's smiling. He's like, yeah, I'm proud to be the WBC champ, man, and all that. That was a bit of a dig at Dillian White for sure. But all's fair in love and war, man. We love it.
Yeah, well, Tyson Fury, he loves all of that, doesn't he? He loves that stuff. So, listen, man, can you imagine press conferences alone for Fury versus Dillian would be great. Would be a great watch. You know what I mean? They're both going to go at it in the press conferences alone. So,
do you think Dillian White, lastly, do you think he will get a title shot? Do you think he will get
I think ultimately he will. I think so. I hope so. He deserves one.
Yeah.
And let's see how he does. He seems to think he's going to win. I like his confidence. I like his energy. He works very hard. I don't think he's naturally the most gifted, but he's made good of everything, all the natural talents he has. So, yeah, man, I'll be pleased if he got a shot.
All right, last one before we go. Just quickly. Last week, man, we were previewing. Well, we didn't even really preview it that much, man, but we were talking about that Sheffield show headlined by Kid Galahad against Kiko Martinez, and also the chief support, Terry Harper, against Alicia Baumgardner. Now, we dismissed that main event. I'm not going to lie, man. We kind of just looked at it like, boy, whatever. But what a show. I'm still shocked by that show. Unbelievable, man. Your thoughts on it, Laurie?
Unbelievable. I was actually out watching that fight on my phone last week. I got invited to a function in a hotel. Fortunately for me, because I subscribed to the Zone, so I was watching. I had the app downloaded on my phone. I was watching it, and I could not believe what I was watching, man. I mean, before the fight, I've got to admit, and apologies to Kiko Martinez, I was very dismissive of his chances. Like I said, he'd been over it several times, going back as far as 2009, I think it was. He fought Renda Monroe and got beat comfortably. He's been here a few times since. He's never won. And when this fight was made, man, I just was pouring shade on it from minute one. I was like, oh, come on, bro. Like, this is ridiculous. Even allowing for the fact that it was supposed to be a homecoming fight for Kid Galahad. So we get to the night, and I'm watching this fight, and Kid Galahad seems to be winning comfortably. And I'm thinking, this is a matter of time before he gets a stoppage. And then out of nowhere, a real haymaker right hand. Although he did go close to landing that shot a few times before then, but I think it was the end of the 5th round, bang. And you think, wow, you know what I mean? And even when he got up, you're thinking to yourself, he looked on right. There's only a couple of seconds left, but he went back to his corner. He was clearly not okay. And then at the start of that 6th, man, another big right hand, and he's out cold. And I'm thinking, wow, that's got to be, I would imagine, upset of the year, don't you think?
Got to be.
Yeah, so I was shocked.
Yeah.
The only reason why I contained myself is because when I was watching it, I was out with a load of people, but I was just looking at my phone in disbelief. I really, you know what I mean? I would not have seen that coming, not in a million years. So it just goes to show boxing sometimes, man. One
Chief
punch
support
can change the direction of everything. You know what I mean?
Chief support as well, man.
Chief support. Oh, that was a very good fight. I was really impressed with Baumgartner. I mean, the timing of that shot that she threw, man, was. I must admit, I do like watching women's boxing, man, and I think they've made massive improvements in their skill sets over the years. Don't you think?
Yeah.
You're watching some of these girls now, man. They're throwing combinations, and you know what I mean. They're going to the body, and you know what I mean. And they're well conditioned. I think the sport. No disrespect, of course, to the girls that had gone before them, the Layla Ali and people like that. But some of these girls now, man, they really do look good. And that Baumgartner, I was very impressed with her, man.
Yeah.
Showed some lovely skills on the night. And the finishing shot was the timing of that shot, man. She just waited for Terry Harper to come in with her hands down. And as soon as she stepped into that zone, boom, right on the temple. And how many times have you ever seen a fighter get knocked out upright on their feet? They clearly don't know where they are.
Great stoppage by the ref.
But yeah, the ref did really well there. In fact, the last I was chatting to a friend of mine, and this is before your time, Daryl, but if you go back, go on YouTube and watch Frank Bruno versus Jumbo Cummings. And I think at the end of the first or second round, you see a very similar situation there. And the only thing that saved Frank Bruno is the punch literally landed on the bell, literally. And Bruno looked just like what Terry Harper did there. But before Jumbo Cummings could get a chance to follow up, the bell went, and Bruno's cornerman actually came in the ring and basically carried him back. And to their credit, they managed to resuscitate him, throw water over him, and Bruno was like, "Where am I?" and all that type of stuff. And he ended up stopping Jumbo Cummings. But anyway, that punch by Baumgartner is one of the best right hands I've seen all year, man. Seriously. Because you can see her, she'd thrown a couple of shots like that previously, hadn't she? Where
she caught her like that in the second round.
That's right. And you could see her like she was playing possum, fainting and that, waiting for Terry Harper to come in. And as soon as she did that, bang, over the top. Beautiful shot.
Harvey has said here, great stoppage by the ref in that fight. I'm happy for Bam Gardner. She's not a bad-looking champ either. Yo, Harvey, I'm not going to lie, Harvey, I had to follow her on Insta, man. You know what I mean? I had to have a look at that. Might have to try and get her on the show, Laurie.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be a great interview because she seems to have a great personality as well, actually. She talks a lot. But as you can see on Saturday, man, she can back it up. It's all right talking, but you got to back it up. And she certainly did that. Sure, and I know they're talking about rematch and all that, but I'll tell you what, man, I can't see Terry Harper beating that girl. Because if you think about it, the confidence that she would have gained from doing that to Terry Harper the first time around, can you imagine what she's going to be like the next time around?
Yeah, and I think after that fight, after that fight, Steffi Ball was in the ring. I think he was saying to Eddie Hearn afterwards that maybe they shouldn't have took that fight. So I don't think that they'll take that fight.
Oh, is that what you said? Like I said, I was
yeah.
Watching. There's a lot of noise around me, so I couldn't really, hear the commentary too much. But I could see, and what I saw was a perfectly executed right hand. And like I said, I don't think, to be fair to Terry Harper, I don't think she's got the skills to beat that girl, man.
No,
because even before the knockout, I was very impressed with Baumgartner. Terry Harper looked to be physically, a good match for her. Maybe even slightly stronger. It's definitely longer and taller. But in terms of skill, that girl was way better than her. Way.
Yeah. Big up Harvey, bro. You already know Harvey, man. Big up Harvey. Listen, we're going to wrap it up for this week, man. Had an hour and 22 minutes.
I would just say as well before you close that Kid Galahad getting knocked out, man. I know this is going to sound slightly controversial, and I hinted at this on your show last week, but I'm not his biggest fan. Do I want to see a guys get stripped? Because that was a bad loss. That's possibly a career-ending knockout, possibly. But I see a lot of people have actually expressed their joy that he got knocked. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say it's a little bit of karma for the way he's conducted himself in his career with regards to those drug allegations. He got caught, he failed a drugs test, and then he came out with this ludicrous excuse about his brothers, lacing his food with steroids because they'd had a dispute over something. And it didn't really sit well with me and a lot of other people in boxing. I know some of the professionals have come out. Sonny Edwards, Carl Frampton, Josh Warrington had all been very critical of him. And what I didn't like about Kid Galahad with those drug allegations is that he didn't seem to show any contrition, remorse, or apology. He offered some weak-ass excuse up, and then he basically said, look, that's it. You know what I mean? He left a bad taste in my mouth. So to see him get beaten on Saturday so comprehensively, all I'm going to say about that is that I wasn't exactly feeling sorry for him. Put it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not the only one. You're not the only one.
You hear me talk about Canelo. So we got to be consistent with this shit, man. That's one of the things I always talk about, the lack of consistency in this sport when it comes to drugs. It seems that some people could take as many drugs as they want, fail as many tests as they want. No one says anything. Immediately it's somebody else that's less well known or less well liked or whatever from another country. Then everyone goes in, we got to get the cheats out of sport. Well, let's keep it consistent.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up, man. Like I said, we've been here for an hour and 20 odd minutes. Another very good show. Don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. slowly getting towards that 1,000 mark. So big up to everybody. And listen, man, we'll be back next week. Look out for more videos. Look out for more shows. And big up to everybody, man. Thank you for your contribution. And enjoy the fights this weekend, for sure. Big up to everybody, man. Lloyd, do you want to close out?
No, man, you've said that adequately. Very well, in fact. Yeah, man. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, supporting the show. We hope, even if you don't like what I've said today, I hope you can appreciate what I'm saying. And listen, contribute, man, in the comment section. Tell us why I'm wrong about what I said about Canelo, if that's what you think. If you think I'm hating on him, as my boy Coogan said last night, Yuri, come on, man, you got to stop hating on Canelo. If what you think I've said tonight is hating, explain to me why. Articulate yourselves, man. Let's make the show interactive. And listen, like, share, subscribe. Let's get Daryl over this 1,000. He more than well deserves it. And we'll see you next week.
Big up to everybody, man. See you next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'll be back with some more videos. Stay tuned, guys. Have a good one.